the story of a mysterious serial killer known as Jack the Ripper. The murders that started in August 1888 stood out from other violent crimes. A mysterious serial killer who was known as Jack the Ripper. A letter written by a person claiming to be the murderer and published to the public is when the name Jack the Ripper first appeared. He's also referred to as Leather Apron and the Whitechapel murder. By 1888, Whitechapel Parish in the East End was becoming extremely crowded. Robbery, violence, and alcoholism were all too common, and also due to the extreme poverty, many women turned to prostitution to make a living. There were thousands of brothels and low-cost lodging establishments that offered sexual services. The canonical five were the five victims who were murdered between August 31 and November 9, 1888. Marian Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. The events all took place in or close to the Whitechapel neighbourhood of London's East End, all within 1 mile of one another. It has been said that Jack the Ripper is responsible for all 5 of the murders. There have also been speculations that Jack the Ripper was responsible for a number of other murders that occurred in the area. The majority of experts believe that severe throat slash wounds, extensive abdominal and vaginal area mutilation, the removal of internal organs, and progressing facial mutilation are the characteristics of Jack the Ripper's technique of murder. Although there are conflicting opinions regarding whether or not this killer should be held responsible for all of these murders, the canonical 5 murders are largely accepted to be Jack the Ripper's act. Marian Nichols, better known as Polly Nichols, was believed to have been the first victim. The 26th of August 1845 to 31 August 1888. Despite having 5 children, her frequent alcohol overconsumption caused her marriage to end in 1880. 2 years later, Marian Nichols had already started working the streets to support herself. On August 31, 1888, Friday, at 3:40 in the morning, when the body of Marian Nichols was discovered in Bucks Row, now Durwood Street, Whitechapel, Nichols was not missing any organs. Marian Nichols, who was 42 years old, was a casual prostitute when she passed away. Nichols was last seen walking in the direction of Whitechapel Road about an hour before Mrs. Emily Holland discovered her dead. She had previously shared a room with Mrs. Emily Holland on Frall Street, Spitalfields. Eliza Ann Smith, better known as Annie Chapman, was believed to have been the second victim. The 25th of September 1840 to 8 September 1888. Annie Chapman resided with her coachman husband John. However, the couple fell on struggles and separated in 1884 after their youngest daughter, Emily, died of meningitis at the age of 12. As a result, Chapman went to Whitechapel, where she stayed in various lodgings. She received 10 shillings each week from her husband and made money by selling flowers and working as a crocheter. Chapman, however, went to sex work after her husband passed away to make sure she always had a comfortable bed to sleep in. On September 8, 1888, Saturday, at around 6 in the morning, Annie Chapman's body was found in the area of 29 Hanbury Street's backyard steps leading to the doorway, Spitalfields. The results of Chapman's autopsy also showed that parts of her bladder, vagina, and uterus had been removed. At the investigation into Chapman's death, Elizabeth Long recalled seeing Chapman outside 29 Hanbury Street at around 5:30 in the morning, accompanied by a man with dark hair, a shabby, genteel manner, and wearing a dark overcoat and a brown deerstalker hat. This witness stated that the man had asked Chapman, "Will you?" and Chapman had responded, "Yes." Elizabeth Stride, better known as Long Liz, was believed to have been the third victim. The 27th of November 1843 to 30 September 1888. It is assumed that Elizabeth Gustafsson, who went by her first name, led a troubled life in her home in Sweden. She had only recently turned 21 when she registered as a prostitute in Gothenburg. Elizabeth utilized the inheritance money she received from her mother after she passed away in the 1860s to come to London, where she applied for alms from the Swedish church while also working as a waitress in the West End. Although Elizabeth and John Stride had respectable careers managing coffee shops in Poplar, their marriage broke down in 1881, and John died not long after. Elizabeth returned to her former habits after that, working as a prostitute once more and relocating to 30 to Flower and Dean Street, where she picked up the name Long Liz. On September 30, 1888, Sunday, at around 1 in the morning, the body of Stride was found in the area of Berner Street, in Dutfield's yard. It's unclear whether Stride's murder was performed by the Ripper or whether he was stopped during the attack, because her body has not undergone any additional mutilations. Later, a number of witnesses came forward to tell police they had seen Stride with a man in or near Berner Street on the evening of September 29th and in the early hours of September 30th. However, each witness provided a different description of the man they had seen with Stride. Catherine Eddowes, better known as Kate, was believed to have been the fourth victim. The 14th of April 1842 to 30 September 1888. She began a relationship with Thomas Conway, an ex-soldier. Their 3 children were born after they moved to London. Eddowes started drinking, which caused conflict in her family. The fights between the two are thought to have escalated by the late 1870s when Eddowes would occasionally be seen with black eyes and facial injuries. But by 1880, she had abandoned her family. When Catherine moved into Cooney's lodging house on Flower and Dean Street in 1881, she met John Kelly, a fruit salesman, who would become her second partner. Eddowes is thought to have periodically turned to casual prostitution to pay her daily rent, but she is believed to have initially made money while living in and around Spitalfields by doing domestic labor for the Jewish community in adjacent Brick Lane, such as cleaning and sewing. On September 30, 1888, Sunday, 3/4 of an hour following the discovery of Elizabeth Stride's body, Eddowes' body was located in a corner of Mitre Square in the City of London. At 2:55 in the morning, a piece of Eddowes' bloody apron was discovered outside a tenement in Whitechapel's Galston Street. In addition to having her left kidney and the majority of her uterus removed, Eddowes had also suffered facial disfigurement. These mutilations would have taken at least 5 minutes, according to the police surgeon who performed the post-mortem on Eddowes' remains. Shortly before the murder, a local cigarette dealer was walking across the square with 2 friends when he saw what appeared to be Eddowes and a fair-haired man with an untidy look. Stride and Eddowes' murders were eventually referred to as the double incident. Mary Jane Kelly, better known as Mary Jeanette Kelly, Fair Emma, Ginger, Dark Mary, and Black Mary, was believed to have been the 5th victim. 1863 to 9 November 1888. The history of Mary Kelly is unknown and unrecorded, and a lot of this information may have been made up. Kelly reportedly married a coal miner named Davis or Davies when she was around 16 years old in or around 1879, He died 2 or 3 years later in a mining explosion. At this point in her life, Kelly is believed to have started her career as a prostitute. She let another sex worker share her room with her for a while when the Whitechapel killings started in order to keep her off the street and away from the murder. Ironically, she was murdered in her room. On November 9, 1888, Friday, at 10:45 in the morning, Mary Jane Kelly's severely dismembered body was found lying on the bed in her one-room apartment at 13 Millers Court, off Dorset Street in Spitalfields. She was 25 years old at the time of her death. Kelly's body was by far the most severely dismembered. It took her killer about 2 hours to complete her mutilation. Her face had been hacked beyond all recognition, and at the scene of the crime, the heart was missing. The fact that there were numerous ashes inside the fireplace at 13 Millers Court revealed that Kelly's killer had used a variety of flammable materials to light the one room while he dismembered her body. In the fall of 1888, Jack the Ripper mysteriously stopped committing murders. The Victorian police encountered numerous difficulties while attempting to capture the murder. Police were unable to prove a connection between the homicides of 1888 and the 11 horrifying deaths that took place in Whitechapel and Spitalfields between 1888 and 1891. Following the killings of Stride and Eddowes, Sir James Fraser, the Commissioner of the City Police, announced a £500 reward for information leading to the capture of Jack the Ripper. Because of the way the mutilations were done, butchers, slaughters, surgeons, and doctors were investigated. According to a note that has survived from Major Henry Smith, the acting City Police Commissioner, the witness testimony of nearby butchers and slaughters was looked into, and as a result, they were excluded from the investigation. Some people thought the murders were likely carried out by a single person. The other crimes, however, were conducted by an unidentified larger group of killers acting independently. The killings remained unsolved, and the name and motivation of the horrific killer remain a mystery. Jack the Ripper was never captured, and experts tried to identify him and establish his identity. Even though the crimes have been committed more than a century ago, the victims of Jack the Ripper have still not gotten justice. The end.